Hi guys, it's Jamie here, and how would you like these from scraps or whole pieces of paper to have in your stash for use on projects? In other words, we're talking paper doilies. But before I show you how I made these, I'm going to ask you to subscribe, like or comment or watch as much of this video as you can. As you're aware, it's a baby channel, and with YouTube being the way it is, the more people who watch it and the longer they watch it for and the more people like and comment, the more they push it out to new audiences, and that would really help me grow. As you know, I'm uploading one video a day at a minimum, so I'm providing constant content. So if you could do me that little favour, that would be awesome, and I would be so grateful. Okay, that's the begging over with. Let's move on to this little project. So I was thinking about paper snowflakes that you used to make as a child, or I did, that used to hang from the ceiling as cheap Christmas decorations. And then paper doilies, and I bought some recently and they were hugely expensive and they're not even fashionable. And then I tea dyed them and coffee stained them, so I added extra to them anyway. And although these aren't perfect, considering what I tend to do with the paper doilies is rip them up and layer them behind other things, it doesn't really matter that they're proper paper doilies. Why not just make some yourself? I have got here a variety of things, because I know some of you like to use new, some of you like to bust scraps. I don't have many hole punches, and the ones I tried out didn't really work on this project, but if you have these mini hole punches like butterflies, hearts, flowers, that type of thing, they may well work in giving you some shapes. So if you have those and you don't often use them because they're too small, the design, for what you're doing with junk journals, then dig them out, because you never know, they might work. I'm not promising they will, I'm saying they might. So here from the scrap box, I have used kitchen paper, greaseproof paper, baking paper, parchment paper, whatever you call it, which I have been using as background when I paint to protect the desk. And I thought, well, let's start with that one. So what you want to do is get basically a square, but don't worry, we're going to cut it up anyway. So say that was our square, then we're going to fold a triangle across the square like that. And then we're going to grab a pair of scissors and make it into an actual square shape. We'll soon know whether it's a proper square or not without having to measure and cut things properly as we fold. So one fold to make one triangle, then we fold inwards this way to make the next triangle. Remember, this is the centre of your doily. So every time you fold, that is the bit that you're not going to necessarily cut into. Though you can, actually, you can. Right, then we fold again. And when we do this fold, so I don't know how many we've done now, you'll see it no longer lines up. So as soon as you get to that stage, so this stage, the triangles still sort of meet, this stage they meet. When we get to this stage, suddenly you've got almost like an ice cream cone shape. Now we trim. So look how time saving that is to begin with. So let's just trim that off. That could, if you want, go back into your scrap pile, or it can go in the bin, up to you. I've just shoved it to one side for now. When we open it out, it isn't a circle, it's a shape. Now you can stay with that if you want, with the points, there's no reason why not. Or you can go back in, fold it up again, but only to this point, and then start to trim. So I would just trim from corner to corner in a circular shape. And again, it does not have to be perfect, because you're going to punch holes out of this anyway. So that's the first one, and if you don't like the look of that shape, just keep going until you get something that you are happy with. Okay, so now we have a sort of curved shape on the edge. And if you open it out, you'll see that you've got more of a flower, square flower shape. Fold it back up again. You don't have to keep opening it out, by the way. That's just for you to check, to make sure that you're happy with the shape. Oh, now I've done that, of course, I can't fold it back up. Right, there we go. So we're basically folded back up. You don't need to bone fold or anything because actually you want it flat. Then all I did, because I don't have a great range of punches, is use a hole punch and the little one. And I just did a random pattern, and I will show you what I mean. So I am just punching away until checking there's always a gap, but I'm not measuring anything. I'm just making sure there's a gap. And it's up to you again how many of these you do or what kind of pathway you follow. You can even go halfway on and off a fold if you want. So let's do that. Let's just go halfway on and off. You can see down when you're about halfway, and do it again. And you can go all the way down, just watching my fingers a little bit, and then down here. And then you can actually do the same the other side. You could punch up, you could do a halfway point. We're not trying to get a perfect pattern. We're just getting a bunch of random little holes. Some haven't punched out very well, that's fine. Just run your fingers over them, grab the little spare bits. Oops, just ripped it because it's greaseproof paper, of course. You got all that mess, that's okay. That sweeps up into the hand, and that's now in the bin. And then any little holes that haven't punched out will actually probably fall out as you open it up anyway. You have a holy little paper doily. Anything that hasn't punched out, you can just give it a little pull or get a pair of scissors and nip them off. It's up to you. Like I said, personally, with me, these are always just part of a cluster. So I'm not too worried if things haven't punched out properly. I wouldn't have that on a page by itself with nothing on top of it. So that is one version. Then let's try something I haven't tried yet, which is using some napkin. And I think this is, yeah, this is just a single sheet of napkin. Slightly worrying because it's very thin. So I'm going to fold it into the square first. No idea what's going to happen because it's already got folds now. And then I'm going to fold it into a triangle. And then another triangle. Now there is no reason that you have to trim off at any stage because you do also get square paper napkins. So that's entirely up to you. I am going to, so as you can see, we've got to our last triangle there. Then I'm folding it over and I'm going to, I haven't even got it particularly well folded. Again, not too worried. I'm going to just trim that off, but you don't have to. You could leave it and have a square paper doily. Style. I think we'll have to call it style now because obviously I've used a paper napkin. And then you can, if you want, rather than do a full circle, just take off that tippy bit and trim that round. You don't even have to do that if you don't want to. You can leave it pointy. It's entirely up to you what design you fancy. Then I'm probably going to see if that will punch as fat as that, because if it does, it's less to punch. You could obviously change this or change what you're punching with. You can even use scissors. I will show you one where I try to use some sharp scissors. Sorry about all the noise, but obviously I am punching holes to demonstrate this, so it is going to be a bit noisier than normal. Now these are what I would consider an emergency standby, or if you're finding the paper doily thing a bit too expensive, then, and you've got scraps or things hanging around, then you can do it on a budget. I don't know when I'm going to be happy that I've got enough holes to make this look doily-like. That's the other thing. I think the more holes you put into them, the more doily-like they look. And I do realise that some do not have holes everywhere. But just because we're doing such circular little punches, because that's all I have available, I just think the holier they are, the more doily-like they look. And then, how many have we got? We've managed to make a huge one, but you could now cut it down and have see-through ones and decoupage that. So you could actually cut along these lines, and then you've got 4 for decoupaging. So I might do that because I'm never going to need anything that big. And then you lay that across a piece of old book page, and you've already got a really nice background to any kind of project that you want to put into a junk journal. So that has made 4. No, they're not perfect, but they are fine for what we're doing. Right, for those of you that want to be a little bit more fancy, I've got some papers here. Now, this is actually really thick, so I don't think that's going to work. Got this little one. Again, it's quite thick. It is a scrap. We'll give it a go. We'll give it a go. So, folding the triangle into a square. Now, if it doesn't fold perfectly, of course, you could trim it off. Entirely up to you. I will be good for the purposes of the video and trim that off. But as you can see, I'm not trimming hugely carefully. We are doing things at speed. This, like I say, is a lot thicker because it's more cardstock-like. It's just a thick paper. So I've folded it and I'm folding it again, and this time I'm not going to attempt to do another fold. And I'm not going to trim it up to be circular shape. I'm just going to see what it would look like in a square shape. And then just punch along, punch along, punch along. Punch where you want. Just make sure you're not punching on top of another hole. Though you could actually punch on top of another hole if you wanted to change up the pattern. Let's do that. Let's make some a bit bigger by punching holes on top of each other and then doing some singular ones. That might change the pattern up a little bit. I'm going to do one on the edge, at least one, another one, yeah, and another one. And I've always got my fingers on where the centre is, so I know where the centre of the doily is going to be. Let's do a double one again. Lots and lots of scrap. I might want to punch some up there in a minute, but demonstration purposes only. We now have a very holy piece of paper that does still have that paper doily look, even though it's pattern paper. So slightly different again, and that is very much a square shape. I might, just for the sake of the doily-esque-ness of it, do that shape. So I haven't rounded it, I've just kind of made it into that size paper doily. That's quite cute. That'll do. Right, another one done. So you can see you can whiz through these, and like I said, if you have different paper punches, you can use those. If you have no punches whatsoever, and you don't even have an awl, not an owl, no one needs Hedwig, an awl, then you can cut them. And I think that's what I did as a child. So let's see if they've got a piece of paper here. Is this thick or thin? Oh, I like that one. I'm going to like all the designs in this, aren't I? I'm not going to want to punch loads of holes out. Oh, there we go. There's one that's a bit bolder. Okay, let's make that into a square. So this is a brand new piece of cardstock. There you go. Or paper. For those of you who don't really scrap bust. And then I suppose we could grab a piece of coffee dyed paper so you can see a coffee stained one and a bit of copy paper. Why not? So we've got one triangle, 2 triangles, 3 triangles. Well, it's not actually, it's more than that, but it's 3 folds. And then when we get to the 4th, so it's the 4th one, there you go, helps if I count, we do this, which is going to give us that pointy look. Then you can circle that off if you want, or I'm thinking maybe this time get a corner punch and see if this will go through it. So again, if you don't have a corner punch, this isn't an issue. I think this might be too thick to fully punch out of that. Yeah, that's going to be too thick. That's not going to work. We'll do it with a thinner piece. Do it with some copy paper. Right, I am going to just curve that off a little bit till I feel that it's not too spiky. Grab those bits, get those bits out the way, and I think you've got the idea by now. We're just going to punch. I wish I had some other paper punches so I could show you some other. Now this time I forgot to refold it. Doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter. It's just you have to do slightly more because you're covering a bigger surface. And if you've got a small paper punch, it may not go through that many layers, so you may have to unfold it a little bit anyway to get through it. Some of these paper punches only go through 1 or 2 layers of papers. It depends on the brand and how well. I bought one the other day, cost me £15, $20 US, and within 3 punches it stopped working and the metals aren't meeting properly and it doesn't cut properly. That is so annoying, and to send it back of course costs lots of money. So all very, very wrong. Right, I've just whacked a lot of holes out of that, but in a random pattern. Some overlapped each other, some didn't. Oh, it's warm in here. I've closed the windows because the neighbours are having a big barbecue, as my mother would call them, a spreader party. Right, you can't really see the holes in that one because it is paper with a big pattern. If I turn it that way, you can see that it has got the holes in. So that's going to be very, very subtle in a journal. You're not going to notice that immediately. Let's just get another one of these and fold that to make a square. So we want to get it up to the square-ish shape. So like we did before, got a bit of colour on this one, which I quite like, even though it's just random bits of paint. So let's just trim that down a little bit. That's not going to make a proper square. It's all right, we'll do the trimming afterwards. You see, I feel like I'm on a sprint with these. You can do this in a more relaxed manner, just saying. So fold, 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 fold again. That's your centre still. And we're going to cut across. Obviously it's all at different levels because I didn't even make a proper square. That's okay, we're now going to do it. And then this time I might try cutting it while it's in place. No idea what shape that's going to make. I think that'll make sort of a petally, flowery shape, maybe. We will see when we open it up. Then with scissors this time. Let's see, what can we do with scissors? You could try and go through very carefully, obviously. Go through all of these. Ooh. Ow. Very carefully, obviously. And cut a randomy shape. I don't know, something like a love hearty type shape maybe. I don't know. I don't even know if I can cut a love hearty type shape. It's a little large, whatever it's going to be. Oops, went through all of them bar one, and then it's kind of a bit spiky looking. It might be better if you use this with a craft knife rather than scissors. I just remember doing this sort of thing as a child with these snowflakes with scissors, but maybe I had more skills with scissors when I was a child than I do now. Then you could, I suppose, just do like little random nicks in this. Didn't mean to do quite so much. and triangle shapes, maybe little. I mean, I have no idea what this one's going to look like because I am doing it very randomly and very, very quickly. See, I'm resisting putting the fan on, even though it is heating up. I don't know why it's heating up because the day's been very overcast and actually not warm. I even wore a coat earlier. British weather, very temperamental. Can't tell if it's summer, spring, autumn. The only thing it definitely isn't is winter. Right, it's not quite that cold. I've even had the heating on today. And that's having had sweltering heat at the beginning of this week. I mean, sweltering. Right, I have no idea what this is going to look like. Probably a bit of a mess. But it's the idea is, if you're very careful, you could probably cut little shapes out of this and still have something a bit doily-like. We will see what this does. It's not bad actually. Oh, it's ripped there unfortunately, but that's okay. We don't use a whole one anyway in a design. So where it hasn't caught it, so this part you could definitely use, and it has got some very random looking shapes here, so that's quite nice actually. Not too bad considering. And perhaps you would like to see the coffee dyed paper or not. I mean, you know, we've got all these examples now. I don't know how many minutes I've been on camera, but not very many doing this. I have got an example of a coffee dyed paper. You've got the idea. Make it into a square shape. Fold it up, fold it up, fold it up. As soon as it no longer folds perfectly, cut it off. That one, I think I did create a bit of a flower shape when I did the fold overs. That one again has done a similar thing. You've got a sort of flower shape going on here. This one we kept it flat and did it on paper. This one we chipped into it. These were obviously, I managed to get 4 out of one ripped up piece of napkin. This is a piece of scrap paper, tiny little bit. This was the kitchen paper. Again, you could use tracing paper, vellum, whatever you want. You could use copy paper, which would be quite light. This is just some coffee stained paper, small little scrappy bit that's been folded up. That was hand cut as well. And then this was yet another big hole punchy one. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give me a thumbs up, give me a like, give me a comment, let me know what you think. Are you going to try this or are you just going to buy them? Because it is easier if you have the money available to do so. And I will see you tomorrow.